Amen. Amen. Long time ago, there was a fierce war going on between the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. The lion led the beasts of the field, and the eagle led the beasts of the air. They were both equally strong and powerful. No one could foretell who's going to win. There was a bet in that time. At first, he did not take which side to take. So he looked at the war and to see how the thing's going to turn out. When the beast of the field was getting the upper hand, the bat hit his wings underneath his arms and went to the lion. And he told, "See, I'm one of you. I crawl with my 4 feet." And they agreed and took him in on their side. However, not long after, the birds were winning the war. Now this time, the bat opened his wings wide and flew up to them and said, "See, I'm one of you. I fly on my wings." So they took them in. So he went back and forth. After a long time of war, they were all getting tired. The lion and the eagle met up together to make peace. And the war was finally over. Everybody cheered. But there was one person who could not cheer because they realized what the bat was doing to them. They banished bat from both the air and the field. So he went up to hid himself in a dark cave where he lived there ever after. I call this identity crisis. Identity crisis. He did not know who he really was. He pretended to be a bird, but next day he'll pretend to be a beast. And then he'll come back and pretend to be a bird again. He turns out he was neither. How about you? Do you really know who you are? Do you really know who you are? Well, we are learning about the people of Israel after Moses' time. God calls Joshua to be their leader. And Joshua was strong and powerful, courageous, even though the responsibility was huge. Because he believed that God was with him through the whole things. But before they go into the promised land, they had to cross the Jordan River. This is the promised land. And the worst thing is, the Jordan River at that time was in flood stage. That means the water more than doubled. And the current was fierce. So nobody could possibly cross this river. And there was no other way around it. But God told Joshua to carry the Ark of the Covenant onto the river. So they carried the ark up to the river. And as soon as they stepped on the river, can you guess what happened?
The river, it was separated and it made a path.
Yes. As soon as they stepped on the water, the river stopped and split in half. And it made a clear path through the promised land. And then after everybody crossed, and as soon as the Ark of the Covenant came out of the river, the water came back and it became as fierce and as deep as it was before. When the kings heard about this news, their hearts melted in fear. They lost all the hopes of going to war. They heard all the stories from Egypt, how God rescued the Israelites out of the land of Egypt. But now they have seen what's happening. And they were the next target now. They were coming to conquer their land. So wow, can you imagine the excitement of the Israelites? All they had to do is to go to the land and claim the land for themselves. And the war was over. It was their land pretty much. So what did they do next?
They made a country.
Did they go on a war?
No.
No, they do something quite different. This is what they do. At that time, that's the verse we read. The Lord told Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise this second generation of Israelites. So Joshua circumcised their sons.
What's circumcision?
Do you know what circumcision is? Well, it's better known as 포경수술 in Korea. If you don't know, it's a surgery for boys where they cut off the foreskin of your pee-pee. It is not pleasant. I remember when I had mine, and I could not walk straight for a week. I was like this, literally. Every time I tried to move just a little bit, it was so painful. I cried every time. I was just laying down like this for like a week. I could not move. You know, the circumcision was first given to the Abraham as a covenant sign between God and the people of God. It was like a special mark showing you that you are God's people. He leaves a mark in you and shows to everyone that you are God's. That's the mark, circumcision. But these people, when they came out of the wilderness, so they were not circumcised. So they did not have the mark of God's people. So they had to be circumcised. They had to. But that's a terrible time to do that. They just crossed the Jordan River. They are at the other side. They're at the land of Canaanites. They could anytime come and attack them, then they'll be defenseless. They're not able to move. Like all men were circumcised. There is no other way to run out. This is a terrible time. It's a horrible time. Why now? Couldn't God told them to do it before they crossed the Jordan River? Get it done and then come ready for battle? Or after everything is done and then be circumcised? When there is peace? They are in the midst of war. Why now? God is reminding them that they are God's people. And that means obeying God no matter what it is. Even if it sounds like a bad idea or absurd or it's stupid to do it. If that's what God wants, then you do it. And so they did. All the males were circumcised just like how God told them to do. Do you know who you really are? That's the question that I asked you before. Do you know who you really are? Let me remind you one thing. It's important. Listen. You are, above all else, God's people. Although we might not have that circumcision as a mark in us, we have something much greater and better now inside of us. And that is Jesus Christ. God has given us Jesus Christ as His mark in us. Jesus told you to love one another like yourself, to forgive those who wrongs you, to bless those people who hate you, to do good to your enemies. You know, that might sound like a stupid and bad idea, absurd idea. But if that's what God wants,
You have to do it.
then we have to do it. You are God's people. Don't forget who you are. You are God's people, and don't let the world tell you what to do. Don't let the parents tell you what to do and how to live your life. Don't let the friends tell you what to do and how you will live your life. Listen to God. Let Him tell you what to do. Because you are God's. You don't belong to anyone else. You are God's. Let me pray.